let me tell you, the husbands have taken over this episode of Salt Lake City, and I am here for it. Welcome back to number one Reality Junkie, where I take my reality TV junk and I just dump it right on you. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to this channel. And you all see the thumbnail, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, hashtag recap. The husbands took over and I am here for it. Hashtag heavy on the husbands. This was such a great episode, a long episode, but definitely jam-packed with a lot. They literally probably, like, what I love about Salt Lake City is that they don't put a lot of fillers in these episodes. It's straight to the meat and potatoes, honey. Like another franchise, like for example, maybe a Potomac or even a New York would have taken this one episode and divvied it up to like 3 more episodes. We got so much in this. So let's just talk about it, because we start off the episode where we left off the previous episode. And, it's Lisa being so uncomfortable. I am so uncomfortable. I'm so uncomfortable. Like, that's going to be the new jam. I just need to find a little beat and I will put that on my YouTube shorts, because the way she says uncomfortable is so uncomfortable. She was feeling uncomfortable because Todd talked to John and told him, look, y'all better ship up or ship out. It's like, you got to get it together. You're not going to come here and disrespect my wife on our anniversary trip. I appreciate that. I talked about that the last recap. You guys can go check that out in my videos. But nonetheless, so we're picking up from there. And John, Lisa's husband, and Lisa talk about the situation, and they get to a place where it's like, okay, look, we'll go to lunch. We'll feel things out. We'll be good, basically. They go to lunch, and it's the whole cast. And Lisa, it talks to Bronwyn immediately, upon getting there. First it's quiet. It's very Akko Taco. It's a very quiet lunch. And then Lisa's, talking to Bronwyn. Look, I didn't mean for it to get like this. Heather was just saying how she felt. And so I was listening to how she felt, and just trying to talk to you about that. And Bronwyn is still like not here for it. And I understand, because yes, you can still, explain how Heather felt. But do you honestly know how Bronwyn feels? And I don't think at any point in time, I'm recollecting, I don't believe she's inquired about how Bronwyn feels or how Bronwyn felt in that whole thing. It doesn't come out until later in this particular episode. So that, brings, some other things come up, because then Whitney chimes in, or at least, no, Lisa brings up the fact that, look, I'm not a liar, in references to Whitney. And Whitney's like, look, I'm not a liar. I'm not a liar. I'm not a liar. I told you what I was told. I am not a liar. And so, then that, of course, brings Lisa to then bring up Justin, and so now, and then Sean comes into the fold, because after the end of all of that, they get to a place where, actually before Sean comes into the fold, John, Lisa's husband's like, look, Whitney, Lisa, did you say anything about Whitney? Lisa's like, no, I did not. I did not say that. I did not. Boom. That's it. That's it. She said she didn't say it. Whitney, did you say anything about Lisa? And, I only said what I was feeling at the time. I said some mean things, but I never lied on Lisa. Boom. Then that's it. That's it. And, Bronwyn's like, well, little did we know the men would solve the problems. It's like, wow, okay, great. So we move on. Before we move on, Sean is like, look, I don't like how, my wife, you disrespect my wife. You've said some things to her, and I just don't understand how she puts up or tolerates the disrespect from you. And so that really doesn't get resolved, and that's going to come ahead, I believe, a little bit later in the episode. But then we have Seth. Now, what I appreciate about Seth that we see in this episode is, and normally Seth is like the one to try to to lighten the mood. He's always, even in the situation where it's been the wives have been fussing and the guys are over in the corner, he's the one that's cracking jokes, lightening the mood up. He's like the jovial person. So in this case, he's like, okay, let's play some volleyball. Cool. So they have a little volleyball tournament. It gets everybody all, kind of teamwork, camaraderie. It was very cute. I did feel like it was a little bit cheesy. Lately, a lot of the housewife shows have been doing this like edit where I think they had like top top five, or it was like a Top Gun reference, and it's, they're spraying, oil on their husbands, getting ready for volleyball, slow mo. And then, like, I think House New York did that with the whole dodgeball thing, and they had their little moment, like kind of like emulating dodgeball, the movie. I've noticed that the producers can get a little, what's the word? They're getting, I think it's cheesy, getting a little cheesy. They could have omitted that, but I did love seeing the game and seeing everyone having a good time. We needed that after, a little bit of the heaviness that we've experienced this last episode, and then even earlier in this particular episode. So Braun was like, look, lunch or dinner, in about an hour, da 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 da. Oh boy, is it dinner. It is a dinner like none other. But before we get to that, I'm going to do a separate video about Mary, because they do interject Mary. Now, Mary, Heather, and Brittany they're not on this trip. And comment in the comment section below. Can't even get my words out. Do you guys miss Heather? Are we missing Heather? Are we missing Brittany? Are we missing Mary? Mary couldn't go, obviously, because their situation. She said something with her son, and they're going to see Robert Sr., which is her husband. But, again, I want to do a separate video, because I want to keep this kind of about, everything that's going on this trip. And then I'll do a separate video about Mary, because the Mary situation is very serious, and it's a very different tone than what's being projected here with this trip. So we'll come back to that. But nonetheless, comment in the comment section below. Do you guys miss Heather? Okay, is she being missed? And let me tell you, I didn't, outside of her name coming up in the episode, it wasn't like, oh, I miss Heather. Where's Heather? Where's Heather? I kind of forgot about Heather. I definitely forgot about Brittany. But more importantly, Heather's an OG. I forgot about Heather. So did y'all forget about Heather in this episode? Anyway, so let's skip ahead. So everyone's getting ready. We see a scene with Lisa and her husband, John. And she's talking about how, what Sean said at the table for lunch, and how Meredith feels some type of way about Sean because she didn't get an apology, even though she apologized to him. So we see that kind of play out a little bit in this episode as well. Now, look. I love a little bit of opulence, getting to see that on the TV screen. Yay. Bronwyn's anniversary present is a necklace that costs $4 million. You guys, it is 170 carats. I'm like, what? Literally 170 carats. And so we see this scene where she's getting ready. Todd puts this necklace on her. And frankly, like, with that necklace, I probably would have worn a different dress, just sidebar. But we see, like, the dynamic. That's been a big hot topic regarding Bronwyn and Todd. Everybody loves Bronwyn, but they're not a fan of Todd. He's getting the grumpy old man edit. And we don't know if it's an edit. We're starting to see that maybe this might just be him and who he is. But even with him putting on this necklace, it looks like she tried to give him a kiss, and it's just like, yeah, he kind of pulled away. Like, I don't know. It was very weird to see, but that necklace is crazy, like crazy. Anyway, look, kudos to her for having the funds to get a $4 million anniversary gift after 10 years. 10 years? Girl, I ain't mad at you. So the party starts, and we see it's a whole mariachi band. It is so crazy. They have literally transformed the backyard where they were earlier. It's a whole different space. It looks fantastic. Like, this was incredible. Everyone comes out and they're just like, wow, this is awesome. And so it has BTRAN, which I still don't, maybe I gotta see what her last name is. Maybe her last name is I don't even know what her last name is. Let me see what her last name is. I'm gonna pull this up real quick. And I know I don't want to do this normally when recording, But I have to know what the B, I know what the B is Bronwyn, the T is Todd, but what is the TAN or the RAN? So let's see. Bronwyn Newport. Newport? Is that her name? What is Todd Bradley? I don't even know what this is coming from. So anyway, whatever. Welcome to the party, Olay. Okay, so let's get into the details of the party. Now, what I did like about this is that it just wasn't the housewives and their husbands. It was also some of their other friends and friends and, colleagues. And matter of fact, Todd's lawyer was there. And of course, they do a flashback with, Lisa talking about all 100,000 of her lawyers when she was in the shuttle van with the girls when Jen Shah, when the police came looking for Jen Shah, and she's like, I'm literally shaking right now. And she's not shaking. That scene always cracks me up. But what we hear while the girls, so you have Angie and Lisa and Meredith and Bronwyn, and they're talking. Behind them, the husbands, you have Sean and Seth that are kind of behind Lisa and Meredith. And then behind Bronwyn is her husband, Todd. And he's talking about Vita Tequila because, again, the whole lawyer thing, we come back to that. So they introduce Lisa to Todd's lawyer and everything. And so Todd begins to then talk about Lisa. And he's like, yeah, they own a tequila company, talking to his attorney. And he's like, yeah, it's mediocre tequila. And I was like, oh my gosh, he is so mean. I don't know. That was just wow. But anyway, so okay, so now we find out what the RTBAN. Okay, so you have Richard, you have Todd, you have Bronwyn, Allison, Newport. So it just, to me, it just seemed to be team too much, team too confusing. But look, you like it, I love it. Anyway, so we're at the dinner table. Bronwyn has Todd to announce, hey, can you say an announcement? He's like, hey, there you go. I said it. Their dynamic is a little weird. I don't know if maybe they had a little situation, they had a little disagreement or whatever the case, but there is some tension between Todd and Bronwyn. So nonetheless, they all get to the table, they get their assigned seats and everything, and they're talking about her necklace and, the things that she must have to do for her necklace. And she's like, look, he's barely here anyway. So we move on to that. And, the comment that gets me is when she states, it's miserable, but it's beautiful, when someone references how cold it is out there at they're outside having dinner. And again, Bronwyn says it's miserable and it's beautiful. Kind of like my marriage. It's miserable, but it's beautiful. It's just so weird. I can't put my finger on the dynamic between these two. It is very, very awkward. And I know people are there just probably like cringing, because I'm cringing watching it, and imagine being there and, just seeing Todd's face and seeing Bronwyn's face. And she is serious. Okay. She's not joking. She is very serious. I think, if you think about her trying to get the kiss from him when he put the necklace on, all these things, even earlier when he was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. No, it's in the discussion. He's just very, I don't know. I guess, I don't know if that's their dynamic, and maybe it clearly works for them. It's been 10 years, but it was just awkward. Tell me down in the comment section below, did you guys notice the awkwardness of these two at the dinner table, specifically Bronwyn and Todd? So I'm so glad we get a little bit of the ice, being broken with Angie, because again, this toast, even that Bronwyn gives, even Meredith is like, they have a weird engagement, I say a weird dynamic. But, Angie, like, finally she comes through and she has the newlywed game. And she's giving it to all the couples, all the housewife couples, because again, there's other friends that are there. So just those that are part of the cast are going to play. But it's called the Not So Newlywed Game, excuse me, but it's a bite off of the Newlywed Game. So this was a very fun experience. And I think even the fact that Lisa and John were able to, talk about things they normally never talk about, their, what goes on in the bedroom. And I'm a firm believer in that. You don't talk about what goes on in your bedroom with your friends. Okay, you don't do that. But she was even able to open up and put some things down that she normally wouldn't. So it was good to see her kind of not be so like uptight and just kind of loosen up. So this game was very fun. We learned a lot about the couples in general and how they're how who's on one accord, who's not on one accord. It was a very good game, and kudos to Angie for doing this. Now, the fourth question, they asked a few first questions, first, second, third. Now they're the fourth question. Angie asks, who at this table does your wife like the least? And it can't be you. Okay. So this one, of course, a little mess, just to get a little mess started. Kudos to Angie for plugging in this question here. And we go around the room. And of course, we already know that Angie's was going to be Meredith and that Lisa's was going to be Whitney. John didn't put down anything because he's just going to, of course, he was like, there's so many people you don't get along with and that probably don't like you. You don't know who to choose. And then, Angie, like I said, puts down Meredith, and Sean, he put down Mare, but I think he spelled it M-A-R versus M-E-R in Meredith in her confessionals. If you're going to be so obsessed with me, you should at least learn how to spell my name. And then Bronwyn says, Lisa. Lisa's like, what? 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 She's like shocked that it would be, that Braun would name Lisa as someone that, she's not getting along with because they're supposed to be friends. Now, it's interesting. Lisa and her husband, Whitney and her husband both put down two different people. Justin put down Lisa. Whitney put down Meredith. And, and I feel like she put down Meredith because she's accepted Lisa for what it is. And there may be still some hope with the Meredith situation because it really is, I won't say miscommunication, but it's really not that serious with Meredith and Whitney. I think Meredith is making it, a mountain out of a molehill, probably because she don't really have a storyline, truth be told, this season. So then Whitney asks, well, Lisa, do you feel that my husband still owes you an apology? And Lisa's like, yes, I do. And what I appreciate about Justin, because I'm not a component or a fan of someone, a proponent or a fan of a man coming after a woman and talking to them aggressively. I am not. But what I'm also not a fan of is when a woman goes and starts it and expects a man not to respond a certain way. You never go antagonize a man because at the end of the day, they are a man. And you don't know how they're going to respond. You just don't know. And when you're talking trash about Justin's wife, Justin loves Whitney very much. They've been through a lot together. And so when you do that, you just don't know how someone's going to react, and it's not worth finding out. So in a sense, yes, she is owed an apology just for maybe him. I really don't even know really what he did outside of raising his voice. But she definitely owes him an apology because she should never have gone to him. And then, of course, like Whitney said, incite. It's in the husbands, you just don't do that. So we have an honest moment from Justin, and I appreciate him being a man about it and not being petty with it, because he was petty before when he was pouring out the Vita tequila bottles, the mediocre Vita tequila. But I do appreciate him just really owning up and just saying, okay, look, I'll just go ahead and boom, I apologize for the way I said it and for me raising my voice at you. And Lisa actually apologizes for bringing Justin into it. And, I'm glad that they were able to squash this. And like Bronwyn said, we're still talking about this. Like, this popped off on the first or second episode. This is now episode, let me see what episode this is. We are behind the velvet rope. And the host brought this topic up. So let me just say that in the podcast, if you go back and listen, the host actually brought this up. So the host is the one that's saying that he feels like Meredith is doing this with Brooks, not Sean. Sean merely responds. And in the episode, they show the quote and a little sound bite from the podcast. And you see on the screen that it starts with, it has a picture of Sean. It has his name, Sean. And it has an ellipsis before his statement. An ellipsis, which is the three dots that we typically see, dot, dot, dot. An ellipsis indicates and infers that this was taken mid-convo. And then you see an ellipsis at the end of the very first line. So it has ellipsis. She took the opportunity to ellipsis to leverage her son and things like that, knowing that this didn't land quite the way they wanted it to. And again, I reiterate the ellipsis because, again, it's mid-convo. You're not getting the full context of how this went. And so while, Meredith, they love to split hairs. They split hairs all the time between her and Lisa. And that's why they're best friends, as well as Heather. She loves to split hairs too. And in this situation, I feel like she's definitely splitting hairs. Now, while this is happening, Whitney is over there saying, well, where's the proof? We need to see the proof, saying to Meredith that there needs to be proof of this of this discussion. And what he said, like, where's the proof? It's on a podcast. Surely you should be able to, present the information, verbatim. Okay. So, while, so then we have Seth, who's normally jovial, who's normally trying to make things, good, make it nice. He comes out and, because he hears her saying, where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where's the proof? And he definitely, I feel like in this moment here, I do not agree with him. I don't agree with the comment. I don't agree with the comment. He said, here's your proof, and he uses an expletive, but it wasn't quite the expletive, but we know it's deranged from the expletive. So you know how you have darn, dang, we know what the expletive is for that. So when we hear that particular word, we know what the expletive is that is, derived from. And so, him saying that to her, number one, Justin, why didn't you say something, bro? That was your time to be like, wait a minute, who you talking to? You're not talking to my wife. You're not saying this to my wife, not in front of my face. He didn't say anything. And that kind of, I was like, what's up with that? Nonetheless, what Seth shows is a headline. It's a headline from Reality Tea, and it's clickbait. It's like these headlines. If you go on YouTube videos, you'll see a lot of YouTubers will use clickbait to get you to watch their YouTube video. And then it has nothing to do with that. And I hope I don't do that. Oh my gosh, please comment below if I do that too, so I can not do that. Because I see quite a few bloggers that say one thing, but really they're not even talking about that. And that's not even the topic at hand. And, it just, again, it's clickbaity. It's a way to get people to watch your video versus just being honest with the subject, with the headliner. So anyway, I just didn't like that from Seth. And I didn't like that Justin didn't speak up or stand up for Whitney. And, this notion that, Meredith is referring to her son, Brooks. And Brooks is a whole adult. Like, he's not a child. I get that's your son. Yes, that is the truth. But he is not a child. So, she's very, like, look, we're beating a dead horse. There's no point in bringing this up because I'm not going to get, I'm not going to get the apology that we want or that we deserve and all this kind of stuff. And it's like Meredith, I think, in this case, Boo Boo, I think you're beating the dead horse, because I don't even think this needed to come up. Again, like Brooks is 24 years old. He's still young, but he's not like a child, he's not like Henry. Lisa's son is, I think a preteen or, a tween, so, she can drop this, please. It's almost like the Alibaba thing. Just let this go, please. Drop it. And so to try to change the subject, Angie brings up the situation with Todd and Bronwyn and their daughter and the grandparents. And it's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Ooh, not the right topic to bring up, Angie. Foot and mouth. Unfortunately, this is not the discussion to have. And we see a bit of crabby Todd after Angie just said Todd is the best person at the table. We see a crabby, very crabby Todd. Now, if I were to split hairs, talking about splitting hairs, you can look at it two ways. One, you can look at it as him being protective of Gwen because of what she's been through, not having her grandparents in her life. Also, what Bronwyn's been through, when she was pregnant with Gwen and how they shunned her, how the father of Gwen's father, which is, her daughter's father who passed away, when Gwen was, very young. She was like maybe 2 years old. But, her parents, his parents shunned Bronwyn because she was young and pregnant. She was 19. It was a lot for them. And they chose not to want to have anything to do with her, which in turn means you would have nothing to do with your grandchild. And when, just floating back to a previous episode when Lisa saw that Bronwyn's, daughter's father she knew the parents and they're close, and she was there when their son died, so she was there with not there with him, but she comforted them, comforted Bronwyn's I guess baby daddies, or when he passed away, she comforted the parents, not knowing that this was Bronwyn's daughter's father. So it's just very complicated a situation. And I think there's a lot of hurt and pain there. And so when I say split hairs, you can look at it from Gwen's side, from Bronwyn's side. And then, the fact that Todd is seeing and probably having to hear about it and be the backbone for them dealing with the situation of, having someone in and out of your life. That's just, it's very, it's a lot to deal with. Children of abandonment, we struggle. And I say we because I dealt with that with my father. It was a struggle, just recognizing that people, aren't going to leave me, that, when you're close people that are the closest people to you and family abandons you, it leaves you feeling that anyone is willing to just up and leave. And in that case, you have to protect yourself and you have to leave first sometimes, or you handle it the way you handle it. I think Todd was very harsh in this moment. And Bronwyn in her confessional said that she was embarrassed. She thought that the girls were going to embarrass her, but really it's Todd that's embarrassing her, because that is embarrassing at a dinner table for you to shut your wife down like that and on national TV. Like, that was just a lot. And I hope that he goes back and watches this episode and sees how he comes across and not decide to, well, I'm just not going to be on TV. No, decide to just make a conscious effort to do a little bit better. I know when we get to, particular age, look, when you get, I'm almost 40, and, you can become set in your ways, but we should never be above reproach. We should never be, unable to make changes for the better that will benefit our family and impact our family and friends and those around us. So, I feel bad for Bronwyn in this moment because this is her story, and he's like shutting it down to where she can't even tell her story. It's unfortunate. So they go to the next day, and they're going to like a little race car thing to meet some race car celebrities, whatever. Just more connections that Bronwyn and Todd have. But then they recap back to the previous night, saying that they ended up having a good time after that dinner. It was a tough dinner, but once they got through the dinner, they had a great time. Now, I do want to point out one thing in particular. In this, in this little montage of what happened after the dinner, you see that there's like, they're not fireworks. There's like a light display and it's like two hearts and you see the couples and, the men are standing behind their women. They're holding them. And then you have Todd like standing in the cut and Bronwyn standing by herself at the end. And I just felt like, man, like, I don't know, like this whole situation with, like I said, I love Bronwyn and we're getting to know, the dynamic between Bronwyn and Todd. And maybe this is just their normal dynamic. But to me, in a situation like that, where you see everyone coupled off and you choose to not, stand behind your wife and at least fake the funk, on an anniversary trip, like, what is going on? What is going on? Anyway, we see Meredith being the pool shark. They're calling her a pool shark. They're all there and they're playing pool. Angie brings in a bunch of floaties and they're like, the girls go to the pool and they have a nice moment in the hot tub. Whitney is talking like, look, we fuss and we fight, but this is what it's about. We come together at the end and we're good. And so they jump into the pool. They have a great time and all is well. So now we get back to the racing. The race car driver, they're talking about Mario Andretti, Davey, somebody. I'm not sure. I'm not versed in the race car world, but I guess it's the IndyCar race. And they're getting the behind the scenes, and it's a great little trip or great little excursion. And they go up there, they're in the little box score, they have a little dinner or little snacks and stuff like that. Bronwyn and Lisa attempt to talk, but, it's so loud. And so what they end up doing is saying, hey, we'll talk later. And again, with this situation, we see the girls, we see Todd. He's just, I don't know what it is with Todd and Bronwyn. I would be curious to, hear from their friends, some of the dynamic, because it's just weird. Even in this situation, it's like he's all the way in the back of the group, she's all the way in the front, and all of that. I don't know. Interesting. So blah blah blah. They have a good time, and we get to where we go back to the villa, and Seth has to leave. So, Seth has extended his trip. Meredith wasn't happy to hear initially that he was going to be leaving, when he was, but he extended his trip to stay a little bit longer, which was appreciated. We had a good time, Seth, even though I didn't like the comment you made toward Whitney. But, at the end of the day, it was good to have him there, even if he couldn't be there the whole duration of the trip. So nonetheless, Sean and Angie, I just love Sean and Angie K. They're just like so cute. She's so pretty. He's so handsome. They're just like the little, Ken and Barbie situation. And then we round out this with Lisa and Bronwyn talking. They finally have, kind of hash it out. Bronwyn is able to articulate what she's feeling, how she's feeling, and why she does not understand. Lisa would not just at least at the very minimum say, you know what? I understand your feelings, Heather, but this is the Bronwyn that I know, and the Bronwyn I know wouldn't do something like this without A, B, C, or D, just so she can feel like, you know what, Lisa has my back. So Bronwyn's like, look, if you're not saying this is not the person that I know, then maybe you do think I'm two-faced. And then in the confessional, we get that, yes, Lisa thinks that she is a bit two-faced. That's why she's not just being upfront with, what she's saying. So yes, she believes that Bronwyn is two-faced, which, is crazy because in the first couple episodes when this first came out with Heather calling out Bronwyn, Lisa defended Bronwyn and she said that, it's the way that, Bronwyn communicates. Bronwyn communicates a certain way. I understand the way she communicates. You're just getting to know her, so you don't understand the way she communicates. And that's where this is coming from. This is not her, being two-faced. This is how she communicates. And now all of a sudden she feels like she's two-faced. Very interesting. And last but not least, to wrap up this episode, this full action-packed episode, we ended with everyone packing, everyone getting ready to roll out. And of course, Bronwyn flew the girls out flew everyone out on a PJ first class, on a PJ private jet. So now to fly them back, they just purchased them airplane tickets. Cool. So unfortunately, though, for everyone else, they received coach seats. And, Angie's like, well, I'm sitting at 19 something. And Lisa's like, well, I'm at 17 something. I haven't flown coach since I was in college. And Lisa literally has a meltdown now. The moment before they find out that they have the plane tickets and that they're flying coach, she's like, I can't wait to get home. I miss Henry. I can't wait to see him. I just want to just be with Henry. And then the moment she finds out about coach, she's like, look, if we need to extend the trip to ensure that we're flying first class and not coach, if we have to fly to LA to ensure that we get on an actual airplane that has first class and that we can fly first class, then guess what? Sorry, Henry. Sorry for you. Gotta go. Like, we're just not coming home because mom has to fly first class. Now, in Bronwyn's defense, of course, it's more like a municipal airport. And with the municipal airports, they have the smaller planes, which means there's only like maybe 4, 6, max business or first class seats. So you're really stuck with coach. And again, this is just a short trip. We're talking about, I think someone said 47 minutes, of a flight. And what they say when they talk about like, okay, it was 70 or 65 minutes is what Bronwyn said. But then if it's 65 minutes, then that means 47 minutes are in air flight, and then the landing and the deep disembark. So, you're talking about an hour and some change, and Lisa could not deal with being on coach just for a little bit of time. Now, look, my fiance and I, when we get married at the end of this month, we're going to Greece for our honeymoon. Yes, Angie K, I'm going to Greece. And we're so excited. My fiance is tall. He needs leg space. Normally if we're in coach, his knees are definitely up against the seat in front of him. And so for our flight from Raleigh, Durham to London Heathrow, to the Heathrow Airport, well, he's trying to find a business class section because he just wants to fly in comfort. It's a long flight. But when we fly from London to Santorini, it was only for like probably an hour, 2-hour flight. We'll sit in coach. It's fine. So I understand for comfort, for taller people and all that kind of stuff. But she ain't trying to hear that. It cracked me up just to see how she literally was having a meltdown. What do y'all think about her meltdown? What do you guys think about this episode? What do you guys think about Todd? What do you think about Bronwyn and Lisa? What do you think about Meredith and Sean? What do you think about Lisa and Whitney? What do you think about just everything in this episode? It was so much, but it was so good. But look, you guys, I took my reality TV junk and I just dumped it right on you. Peace.